This is my journey. Inspired one story at a time, a library of leaders was created. It began as a journey to learn. As time went on, it began to grow. All it needed was a platform, and this podcast was created to listen, to inspire, to share. I am a storyteller, and this is my journey. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. I'm your host, Steve Anderson, and today our guests are Scott Burgmeyer and Tammy Rodgers, and they are the founders and CEO of BecomeMore Group. And Scott isn't your typical business coach. Over the past 30 years, he has transformed and optimized hundreds of companies across the U.S., including Google, Procter Gamble, and Bridgestone. He is known for tackling the toughest organizational challenges, reversing decades-long declines, resolving complex succession disputes, boosting employee retention, and helping organizations unlock their full potential. His clients seem to love him. He has a retaining rate of 95%, so that's pretty impressive. He has a PhD in organizational development and leadership from the University of Arizona. He has a master's degree in business administration and organizational leadership from Ashford University. He is the recipient of the Iowa Recognition of Performance Excellence 7 times and has won the Bridgestone CEO Award. So, Scott, it's great to hear about you. And Tammy, I think I'm just going to let you introduce yourself because I think you can do it better than me. So, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay,
Hey, beat
Steve,
that.
I'm just totally laughing because if you had done me first and then Scott would have said, and I'm the better CEO.
I would have
So
said that, yes.
I think in all honesty, I'm just gonna say, hey, we've done this stuff together and yeah, ditto, other than all of those awards and stuff, he just put his name on it instead of putting both of our names on it.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you
Oh,
did that.
wow. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Th
Oh,
those were, most of those were BT before Tammy.
It's
okay.
true. I'm totally messing with you, Steve. I'm sorry. But honestly, he has all those accolades. Uh, s- you know, I don't even talk about myself that way. So in all honesty, I am the people side of our business, and my whole thing is helping companies, teams, and individuals get better, one person, one team, one company at a time. And I've had the privilege of being able to do that with companies all over this country. So I've,
That,
very, very humbled and
that sounds
fortunate to be able
great.
to work with some great
Well,
people.
let's get a little
God's wonderful.
context for our listeners here. So why don't you go ahead and start, Tammy? Just tell us a little bit about kind of where you're from and what you're doing and, a little bit about your past background and then how you met Scott and you guys came together and doing what you're doing now.
Um, so Scott and I actually have a great history. Scott was working at Bridgestone and he was looking for someone to come in and do leadership development. And he called me. It was a cold call. He was saying, I heard your name and heard you had a good reputation. And so he asked if I would come in and do a leadership program. And we spent a little bit of time talking about that. And at the end of that conversation, I was like, okay, Scott, let's just talk budget. What do you have in the budget? And he was like, I have $450. And I laughed because we were just being playful. And I
Yeah.
was like, hey, I have to tell you, I don't put pantyhose on for $450. And that's back in the day when we wore pantyhose.
Yeah, yeah.
And he got really serious on me and he was like, no, that's my budget. And I was like, hey, seriously, that's not even close to my rate. And he was like, that's my budget. And he was not moving and it was really obvious. And so I made the decision and I said, hey, here's what we'll do. I'll come in and I'll do this one program for you, and I'll do it for $450. However, if I do it really well, you will hire me again and you will never negotiate my rate. And guess what? I had a really good day
That's
and I
good.
actually knocked it out of the park. And Scott hired me and I worked with him as a consultant at Bridgestone for 8 years. And he never, ever challenged my rate ever again. Well,
That's
fast
good.
forward, Scott went on, worked for a couple of other companies, and eventually created his own firm. I had been in my own firm for many, many, many years. And I would say, well, Scott, probably 2012, 2013, we were
Yep.
working behind the scenes as Scott was kind of building a consulting firm while he was doing other work for a company he worked for. And then as he continued to move forward and go closer and closer to creating a consulting firm and not having it be a side gig, I'm still doing this other stuff. We're collaborating behind the scenes. And in 2020, we actually started to work together all the time. 2022, we became a formal entity together. 2023, we announced to the world BecomeMore Group, which is where that brand was born. But it really was born out of my consulting firm that had been in business for more than 30 years at that point, and Scott's side consulting gig, as well as all those others experiences that came together to create that. So it's been kind of fun because we've been working together for more than 20 years, even though people didn't know that about us.
That's fascinating. So Scott, why bring on a partner? Seems like you were preparing to go out on your own. You're doing your own
Well,
thing. You have some success. Why bring on somebody else? What's the deal?
I mean, I felt sorry for her. No, I'm just no, so it's
Mhm.
interesting because Tammy for many years said, you should be on your own. You should be on your own. Corporate America isn't for you. And I finally did that full time in 2018. And Tammy had a business partner at that time,
I did.
and that they were doing their thing and I was doing my thing. And as Tammy said, there would be some things that we would kind of hand back and forth to each other because it better fit my skill set, or something one of my clients needed, better fit her skill set. And we just kind of referred back and forth. No big deal. And then Tammy and her business partner divorced. And she was going to start her firm. And I said, why don't we just join together? Like, why don't we just do this together? Let's just be peers. No big deal. Um, and she was stubborn.
Yeah.
It said, I want to do my own thing. I want to kind of be this solo, but we still did work together. We started to actually do a little strategic planning together. We did early on, like in late 2019, 2020, we had a couple of joint acquisitions that we kind of did together under the Become More name, but it was more behind the scenes. And I think what we have realized is we complement each other's skill sets.
Right.
There's overlap, sure. There's some things Tammy's way better at than I am. That's okay. That doesn't mean I'm bad at it. It just means she's a little better at it. And I like to think that I have a handful of things that I'm a little better at than Tammy. But at the end of the day, what we figured out was when we work together, we actually are better.
Yeah, there's a great book. I'm gonna not get the author's name, but it was I think it was called The Power of Two, and it talked a lot about some of the best things that have been created in our modern world have been by two people, and it gave examples like Lennon and McCartney, and Wozniak and Jobs, and Allen and Gates, and so I think there is a case to be made that bringing two people together with different strengths and complementary to each other, can create greater things than any one person could on their own. So that's
Yeah.
really,
And really, and many people who've sat in these seats, when you sit in an executive seat, it's oftentimes much more lonely than people recognize.
absolutely.
And when you're in corporate America and it's a really competitive world, sometimes you can't bring all of your concerns and the things that you're struggling with to the table because you're fighting for positions. In our world, as owners of this company, we can lean on each other and we can say when stuff is not going well, and we can be vulnerable in that space and make up for each other and support each other in that process. And that is a huge, huge gift of authenticity, and as well as understanding that you don't have to be all things, that you have other people that can fill in those gaps that may not be your strengths. And I will tell you, a co-CEO position is weird. I mean, Scott and
That
I
is very
own,
unusual. So
yeah,
yeah,
we own the company 50-50. He owns 50 and I own 50. No one wins when it comes to if we're not agreeing. And yet we have found a way that this really, really works for us. And we had to learn some skill sets and bring some skill sets to the table. One of being tell the truth, two, work through tough things, And then three, make sure you're having the right conversations, the difficult conversations about important stuff and stuff that's not important. Don't make that a difficult conversation. And that was important for us to be able to be successful.
For sure. It's like a marriage. I mean, has one of you thought you're, a little bit more the CEO at some point and the other one has to pull you back a little bit, or is that it
We
sounds like
have
it
not.
worked out
Yeah.
well. That's great.
Yeah,
Well,
you would think that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well,
Right?
that's the way most things happen that way is that even if you start out equals, there's often one person who kind of feels like their role is to take more control and to be more forward and whatever. And if that is not happening, then obviously you've got some great communication between the two of you.
I
I
will
think
tell you, Steve, I think this is one of, again, our superpowers that's it's very different, but it's also the way that we work with companies, right? Our job is not to tell people what to do. Our job is to ask the questions to help that executive team figure out the answer that's going to work for them. And because that's the skill set we bring to our clients, asking tough questions, working through those different points of view, trying to analyze and figure out which one makes the most sense, making a decision and executing that. Scott and I have to be able to do that with one another if we expect companies to do that. And so this is something that is different about the way that we work. And we think it's one of the keys to having companies be successful is that piece that says, hey, everybody has an experience, an opinion, a way of seeing things. Let's work through that. Let's not hide it. Let's not, but we have to like have those tough conversations and then find a way to come to a place where we're not compromising. We actually have a better solution because we talked about it.
Yeah, that's great. So now, are you both based in Iowa? Is that right? No, where are you based?
no, the the company is based in Iowa.
Company's based
Um,
in Iowa. Okay.
yeah, yeah, and most of the staff is in Iowa. I live in Texas, and that is a recent thing in the last 16 months.
Wow.
Um, my amazing wife had a once in a lifetime dream job opportunity that we talked through. We took our youngest to college last fall, and we said, you know what? Let's do it. I
Yeah.
can kind of work from anywhere. Um,
And Tammy,
and I
where are
know
you based?
Tam, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm based out of Des Moines.
Okay.
And so one of the pieces about that, again, every single one of our staff members, they don't work in a location, a corporate location. Everybody works from home. And so we are one of those organizations that have found a way to make remote work work. And then we also are going to see clients. So much of our work is with them. So we're going to them. And so we don't need to always be together. But just this week, Steve, our team is together. We're having our annual retreat and we get together for a week as a team. And that is our opportunity to make sure that we talk about our successes from the year past, our failures from the year past, what we need to do differently, and what's the vision of the year going forward. So we always spend a week together with the staff this time of the year so that we have the opportunity to make sure that we're on the same page. And then we have very formal communication processes that we use to make sure that we're keeping everybody in the loop.
Let's hear about Become More. So that's the company you have created. So what does Become More do? I know there's multiple pieces of it. So just tell us, in a nutshell, what is Become More?
So most would call us a consulting firm. It's probably the easiest name. Really, our focus is company is performing here, and they're recognizing that we're not as good as we could be. We're good, bad, but we want to go here. We want to take it to the next level or the next five levels above. And our role, as Tammy mentioned earlier, our approach is then to work with them to identify what's preventing them to get to that top level and what solutions will get them there. So we are not a just do it this here is the pre-packaged stuff that we're going to hand you. Just follow this magical playbook and everything will be fine. We customize the solution to that specific client.
And actually, we co-create that customized solution with the client so that it's not us, it's their thoughts, their background, their understanding, their experience. Our job in that is not to have the answer, It's to help them discover the answer. And that way they believe it. That way they are willing to follow it. And that way they have a plan for executing it versus us imposing.
So most of our clients come to us and they look at it and they say, we want to improve our culture. We want our leaders to be better leaders. We need some support on strategic planning or strategic execution. We want to make our processes more effective, more efficient. We want our salespeople to be able to sell better or be able to manage change better. Those are the things that typically we're asked to come in and do. And then we work with them to say, here's options and alternatives. What path do you want to go?
And so do you do that through one-on-one coaching, workshops, leadership development programs, keynote speaking, all those are part of this
Yep.
organization, correct?
All of them. Yeah. So if you look at it kind of our services, our service list would be coaching, leadership development, curriculum design, workshops, whether that's public. We have a number of public workshops, a number of private workshops that we'll custom design for an organization. Um, Process improvement. We do kind of quality, Lean Six Sigma work, strategic planning, succession planning, board development. I mean, we can probably create a whole giant list that is
So do
not
you
that.
sparse out the different things that you are good at, or do you both do all those things?
Hmm, amazing question.
So here's the piece. I don't love process improvement, Lean Six Sigma.
Okay.
Okay. Am I certified? Yes. Can I do it? Yes. Do I love it?
Boring,
No.
boring, right?
And I don't like, I mean, for me, I just don't
It's not
like
boring
have
if you do it right.
all of that's true. So when we have that work, we have teams of people, individuals who they actually, that's the work that they prefer.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when we have the opportunity, we are always going to put people into the work that they prefer. Now, can I do that? Yes. Have I done it? Yes. Would I prefer to give that to Scott or members of the team that is the stuff that they do? Yes. And oftentimes, though, this is my client, right? This client and that's my responsibility. I am that client's point of contact. And oftentimes, if that comes up, I will go ahead and do that, or I will bring in another member of the team to handle that. So we have teammates that have some amazing different skill sets, even beyond Scott's and mine. And we're going to bring them into that solution if that's the right person and if they're available.
And it really is. When I look at like skill sets across the team, we really have overlapping skill sets and on purpose because we don't want to put all the eggs in one basket, so to speak. And then what we're doing is we're matching who is going to fit relationship wise and click with that client and that skill set. And then we're going to say, all right, let's marry those together so that that client is getting the biggest impact they can get.
And
And with
years ago, Steve, I ran my company. So it was the Tammy show, and Scott ran his company, and it was the Scott show. Well, now we have a team. And so Become More is a lot more than Scott and Tammy, right? So we have Marlene and we have Carmen and we have Susan and we know we can just go down the list. And each one of those individuals are really talented and bring, their own unique set of skills to the table within the culture and the systems that Become More brings to the table.
it's a great name for a company. Did you work hard to come up with that, or did that just happen?
Scott, tell them the story.
I remember it, and then you can correct it. So we were talking about company names, and it really was in Tammy's company. Um, they had a tagline of, we can be more, we can grow, or whatever that kind of
Mhm.
tagline was. And when we started talking about it, it started off as oh, that's what we could do. We could say, oh, you're going to come and get training with us to become more. And one of us, I don't remember who, just all of a sudden said, why don't we just make that the company name? Like
Yeah.
we can have so much, I mean, there's so much marketing clout that can go with that. There's so much like how, like, it's all about growing, it's all about becoming more. And so that's really how it, just through conversation and just kind of thinking about what message do we want to send to our clients, both current and future, to say, like, you're not done yet.
Yeah.
And if
That's
you
And
have
that
the ever
message,
have the thought that you are done, you're right, you're done.
that message, Steve, honestly, we are actually onboarding a new staff member this week. And we've been talking about, there are people who think, hey, I'm really good at what I do. And we never want any company or any individual to think it's not that you aren't good. The question is, have you reached your potential? Are you done? Is there more? And in the end, when you have this mindset that says, I am good and I'm not done yet, that's when we see growth. That's when we see, I'm not beating you up because you're not good enough. I'm actually showing you that you have more potential than you ever dreamed of, and let's go after it. And that's the message that we want our clients and every individual inside of that company to have is the piece that says, "Hey, right, we're not here to beat you up. We're not here to point out about what's not working. What we're showing you is that you have so much more yet to be able to give and provide and value and all those things. And when you start thinking in that way, you grow.
yeah.
And that is what we're about,
And
becoming
to me,
more,
the flip
leveling up.
the flip side of this, I mean, there's medical research on this. As you age, as soon as you say, "Oh, I'm done," or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you are going to go on that decline. If you're a leader and you're like, "Hey, we've arrived," like yes, you might plateau, but eventually you're going to be on that dive down. And is that what you want? So it might not happen today or next week, but sometime in the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, the moment you say we've arrived, you're going to go into that decline and it's going to be really hard to recover. And
Yeah.
it's a delicate balance to say, I want to push and become more. I do need to celebrate the wins.
Hmm.
I can't I can't be what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next, and exhaust everyone because that's not motivating. So we need to take a moment to breathe and celebrate. And then we need to say, okay, what's next? And what's next might not be growth, hockey stick growth. It might be just to say, I'm just going to level up 2%.
Hmm.
Like we don't need to
Improve
grow.
this process,
Yeah.
right?
I just
Do
want
this a little bit faster. It's not always about we're going to increase our bottom line revenue by that huge number. Sometimes it's becoming more efficient and more effective in small little ways that add up, right?
and having that mindset, what we're seeing is what really differentiates the mediocre from the amazing.
Well, it has a very positive connotation, which I like. And since we're telling stories here, when I retired from my CEO job, I started executive coaching, and I wanted to come up with a name. And since I'm sitting here in my wine cellar for this podcast, I'll tell the story. Is that the name of my company is Orange Dot Coaching. And people say, well, where does Orange Dot come from? And I tell the story that my wife and I were away on a little getaway, and my oldest daughter, who was an adult, was out here with a couple of her friends. And she said, hey, Dad, is it okay if we, grab a couple bottles of wine from your wine cellar? And to enjoy. And I said, of course, so she did. And I came back and I looked in the wine cellar and I thought, oh my gosh, the two that she picked were like really special wines. So I said, told my wife, I said, what are we going to do about this? And she goes, well, why don't you just, I have these little dot stickers like you use for a garage sale. And why don't we put an orange dot on each one that basically tells all our kids that you have to ask dad before you drink an orange dot bottle of wine. And then we could make the analogy that that's what great leaders are. We're going to create orange dot leaders that they learn more with time. They're vintage. They get experience and they become better. And so that's the story
Nice, love
behind
that.
my company's name.
I love that. And by the way, that piece, hey, I could scream at my kids for taking the wrong bottle of wine,
Yeah.
but guess what? I didn't educate them on what the right bottle of wine was. So who do you blame? Me or
That's
them,
right.
right?
Didn't
That's a
ask enough
great story.
questions. Didn't ask enough
Or
questions for
or do you celebrate because they knew the good stuff?
Yeah, well, if you know my oldest daughter, she's good at that. She knows the good stuff. So it was, oh, look at this one. So that's great. So, Scott, also, I looked, in doing a little research for this. You're quite an author. You're a prolific author. You've written 5 books, is that right?
Yeah, and yes, so Tammy and I have written 5 books together.
Oh, you
Yep.
both have. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so we're the co-authors.
Okay, great.
Yep. Yep.
Great. And what are
Yep.
those books related to basically what you're doing, leadership development and growth and
Yeah, so the
okay.
the first 3 are field guides they're really field guides to support people on kind of their journey of doing performance improvement, process improvement. The last 2 books, they are the typical reader book, I guess you would call it. They're
Mhm.
a business book, but they are related. So one is the Chief Optimization Officer, and it makes the case for why an organization needs that role inside the organization, right? Who is that role inside the organization that's going to push the organization, look at things through a lens of, hey, we're not done yet. How do we get better? And so kind of makes the case for that. And Tammy, tell them about the book that we launched in May. Frankly, it's our best book yet.
Yeah, we're a little prejudicial. We're getting better as we write. So again, that piece, we wrote our first one, maybe wasn't the best book. It gets better and better and better because we're practicing, which is part of how you get better in
Yeah,
the world.
it's an orange
Totally
dot
makes
book. It got
sense.
better with age.
That's right.
Exactly.
Totally makes sense.
Exactly. And so it's called Think, the Road Less Traveled. And it really is making the case that we are oftentimes not using this gray matter between our ears. We are allowing ourselves to follow kind of these impulses that are part of who we are just naturally. All of us have them. They're called cognitive biases. And it's this piece that says, hey, taking action feels really good, so I'm going to run right now. Okay. Or being reactive right now feels really good. We're not thinking things through. We are actually responding to these things that don't allow us to think. And the book comes in and helps us understand that we all have that issue where we want to do something instead of think things through. And we don't have to live with that. Those are good in certain circumstances, but there are circumstances where we're overusing that. So, how do we then start using this gray matter and do it in a way where it's not slowing us down? It's actually helping us make better decisions and move forward. And how can I, as an individual, encourage my own thinking? Or how do we, as a company, encourage our employees to use this gray matter between their ears? And we had the honor this year to not only finish that book and publish it, but we went to the National SHRM conference, which is the Society of Human Resource Management, and they asked us to debut the book there. And we debuted it there in July. And this book is just, that's what we've heard from so many of our clients. I have staff and they're brilliant, but they're not thinking.
Yeah.
And
They're
so
just
in
doing, they're
finding
just
out, like,
checking the box. They're
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
So why are they doing that, right? How are we contributing to that as an organization? And how am I as an individual contributing to that? And what can we do differently? And that book really answers those questions. And I will tell you, the research on that was so much fun to fully understand that. And then the writing of that book, because it was so many of our clients had this pain. it was really fun to be able to get that and publish it and to bring it to life for them. So we are, I thank you for asking about that because right now, I feel like a proud mama, in that spot. We birthed this baby and it's something we're very proud of.
It's really interesting. I'm a huge believer in language and mindsets and how you think about things. And it reminds me of a personal story. Do you know who Seth Godin is?
Of
He's written
course.
many
Yep.
business guru. He's kind of a business guru, but I went and saw him speak, and he talked about how you need to identify with who you are and what you do, and that gets your mind, in the right position to do things. And he gave some examples, and I went home and I really worked on that, and I thought, because what happens is I was the CEO of this company, and people say, well, what do you do during the day? Like, what do you do as a CEO? And I'm like, well, let's see. I read some emails, I go to meetings, I talk on the phone, and if that doesn't sound like the most boring job in the world. So I went home and I worked on this little exercise, and I came up with, what do I do? And the three that I came up with is I said, I'm an ambassador for my company, I help leaders learn and grow, and I'm a storyteller. And so, whatever I'm doing that are the tasks that I'm doing and the day-to-day things, I think, okay, which one of those three things am I doing right now in that category? And it helps me get focused and do it in the right way. And if I can identify something I'm doing that fits into one of those three categories, I probably shouldn't be doing it. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a really, really cool exercise.
It's a great, yeah, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What it reminds me of is we, Steve, your approach on that is really, really good. We talk about it as what is a leader's work product.
Hmm.
So the task is the activity, but the activity, my favorite question is always, have you ever gotten your car serviced?
Yeah.
And if you call the mechanic and they say, "Oh, we're working on it, we're troubleshooting it, we're like, do you care?" And everyone says, "No, I don't." Well, what do you want to know? Well, I want to know the how much, so I want a quote. I want
Yeah.
to know what the problem is, what's the resolution, and I want to know when. I want a time frame. All of those are work products. The activity is what gets you to the work product, but the customer cares about the work product. When you transition that into leader, it really is. I make decisions. I have people who can do certain whatever they need to do based on the role they have. And I'm having people understand, which is external people understand who we are as a company.
Hmm.
If I am not doing the right activities to deliver those work products, then I say it a little tongue in cheek. You have defects and you have work to do.
For sure. You mentioned it earlier, Scott, when you said that, companies, when they hire you, they want to get to a different level, and there's things that preventing them from getting to that level. And I know that it's specific to each company, and everyone's a little different, and you come in with specific plans. But what generally do you see in companies that are preventing them from getting to the next level? Are there trends, or there commonalities that you see?
There is one common theme, and I'm sorry for all the leaders and business owners out there. It's you. It
That is,
usually,
Yeah.
I mean, it typically is they're going to come to us with, "Oh, I want my people to be able to whatever it is, sell better, interact better, not be jerks at work, whatever that is." And there's a huge component that if they themselves are not willing to do some work, they are the limiting factor.
and the work that he's talking about, Steve, is interpersonal work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's the piece. If we talk with most, and we're talking leaders at every level, I don't care, supervisory, all the way to that CEO level. Oftentimes we'll hear things like, my team, and they're talking about
They,
what folks
they,
aren't doing out there. And the hard thing for them to recognize is how am I contributing to that problem? And when a leader is seeing issues in their organization before they start pointing fingers at any member of their team, you have to look at yourself and saying, hey, how am I contributing to that? And how do I need to grow myself so that I can get the outcomes that I'm looking for? And unfortunately, most individuals that we work with are looking at what everybody else is doing wrong instead of recognizing that it starts with you. And the more that you grow and the more that you build your skill sets and your understanding of becoming the best human being that you can become, the better everything else is going to go, right? But they want us to fix them without understanding that you actually need to do your own personal growth work. And that's probably, Steve, why you're an executive coach, right? It's helping those individuals learn that it starts with you because a company will never grow beyond its leaders. The leaders are the limiting factors.
Yeah. And Tammy, I think you said something important. It starts with them. I think there's also this element of that doesn't mean we let everyone else off the hook and we
No.
take all the weight on our shoulders. No, I, as the leader, need to do some work.
Hmm.
And their direct reports will need to do some work. And their direct reports will need to do some work. That what it could be is it could be 50-50.
Hmm.
It could be, you know what? Man, this leader is actually doing some really, really, really good stuff. And they need to make some small changes, 20%. And yeah, their staff needs to do the 80%.
Well,
And that's where that's
the 20% may lead to that being able to do that
right.
80%, right?
And so that's where what we have seen and why sometimes people say, well, you're an atypical because most consultants come in and tell us, well, you just need to do this, 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 and this. Our viewpoint is that's super arrogant. We don't know you.
Yeah.
I need to spend some time knowing you and understanding what have you tried, what haven't you tried, what's really going on. Then we can come together to say this is the best step forward for you today.
And I think what else Tammy said that was really important too there is at every level of the organization. The best companies are the companies that lead from every level. So the leadership development program isn't for the top three or four people. It's for the, entire organization and the
Mhm.
leadership team. And if you can get that going all through the organization, then they step up and they do more and they learn and they grow and the company grows.
And that's going back to the the book. I don't want to just use the top executives' brains. I
Yeah.
want to use the brain of every person in this organization because you have individuals who can contribute in ways. If we can find a way to open the door, tap into that brilliance and like have them like look in this direction and head there, because that's I'm going to point in the right direction, but I want you to drive it, right? I want to use your skills and your energy and your experience and your background. You don't have to rely just on mine. I have mine, but you have yours. And together, if we can tap into all of it, it's going to exponentially change what this organization is capable of. But if you're just relying on me, oh my goodness, I might be brilliant, but I'm not that brilliant,
Well, you
right?
just need to be open to it. I don't know if you've read Team of Rivals about Abraham
Love it.
Lincoln, but I love the story where he sends his chief of staff over to, I think it was the Secretary of State at the time, and said, here's what we want to do. And the chief of staff came back, and Abraham Lincoln said, well, what did he say? And he said, President, I can't tell you what he said. No, no, tell me what he said. He says, no, I can't. He says, no, tell me. He said, you're an idiot, and this is stupid. And instead of what a lot of people would do is get upset and say, screw you or whatever, Lincoln went and got his hat and his coat and started over to the residence of the Secretary of State. And the chief of staff said, where are you going? And he goes, well, generally that guy is right on and he's really smart. So if I'm an idiot and it's stupid, I need to figure out what he's thinking that I'm not getting. And, what a great story, right? That's how we should all think instead of getting all defensive and using the power play and whatever. It's just like, no, this is information I need to get to the better outcome.
I love that. And actually that book has been meaningful for both Scott and I because they talk about a concept in that book about true north, right? Lincoln's like, hey, we have to head to true north. And it's not just a direct path. Sometimes you got to go west, sometimes you got to go east, sometimes you got to go back up and go around. But as long as you're headed to true north. And that message, right, that says, what are we trying to achieve? Let's get that really, really, really clear. And then when we get these messages like that's stupid or that doesn't work, we can stop, and it's not about like it has to be my way. We can stop and go, wait a minute, what is right about this message that I'm getting? And how does that help me then continue on to true north in that particular spot instead of rejecting those messages? And I do think that that's one of the things that we have to learn, especially as we go into leadership roles, to not reject other people's messages, even when they come out badly. Like, even when they say it in a way that's not even respectful, it's like, wait a minute, before I get all upset about that, what's right about this?
Yeah.
And how can I use that to continue to go to True North?
Well, since we're talking about books here, tell us a little bit about this. You have a book club on your website that you do. So tell us about what that's about and what it means.
So it started because if we're saying become more, right? That means that we need to internally, individually, every member of our organization needs to continue to grow. Well, how do you do that? Well, one way is to expose yourself to things that you've not been exposed to before. Reading is a great way. So years ago, we just started reading internally, and we would choose books by different authors. Some of them are bestsellers, some of them are self-published, some of them disagree with what our basic philosophies are, some of them are in alignment. We don't worry about that. We just want to be exposed. And we would read those books and then talk with one another about kind of the learning lessons. Well, the more that we did that internally, we'd be talking to customers about that, and they'd be like, well, we want to do that. And so in the end, we started to say, okay, let's just open that up and anybody who wants to join us. And it used to be pre 20, 2020 that we would have people come and physically be with us. But one of the great things that happened in that whole COVID thing is that we learned how to do this thing virtually. And now we have people who join us from all over and they come and spend 2.5 hours with us talking about the book that we just spent the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks reading. And it's so much fun to be able to recognize that one, I read the book and I got these 3 points out of it, but you read the book and you got three different points, and Scott read the book and he got three other points, and it expands our understanding, and having the conversation actually takes those concepts and helps us make it something that we can utilize other than just consume, right? So consuming is one thing, but actually thinking it through and saying, now what do I do with it? That happens in the conversation. And so, gosh, we're on more than 20 years, Steve, of doing those book clubs.
That's great. Now you're also experienced podcaster, so you also have a leadership. It's called the Leadership Line podcast, correct? So Scott, why don't you
Yep.
tell us a little bit about that and when it started and how that fits into this whole comprehensive plan that you have?
Yeah, so for us it started I think 20 end of 21 or early 22, give or take. And well, almost every week we drop a new episode. We got a little behind this year. We haven't published one since for a little bit, and we were just talking about this yesterday. But what it really was our way of saying, here are topics or concepts or things we're hearing out in the world, and let's just have a quick conversation about them. And they're usually 12 to 15 minutes long. One of our team members, the way we do it is Carmen is our host, and she actually brings a topic to the table. We don't even know what that topic is, and she drops it on us, and we have to talk about it live. And then we record that. And the whole intent is really to share some nuggets of knowledge that we have or share our experiences. and we have different clients doing different things with them. Some of them are like, hey, at our next leadership development, you need to listen to episode 17, and we're going to have a conversation about episode 17. And it really is just us putting some of our thought leadership out there for people to consume.
Yeah. And Steve, one of the things that I love about that particular thing is it gives us a chance to answer some of the questions that customers have been asking. It gives us, Scott and I, a chance. And if you ever listen to any of them, sometimes Scott will say, I think it's fill in the blank. And I literally followed up. I'm like, I completely disagree. And here's why. And
Right.
what I love about that piece of it is there isn't always one right answer. There are many answers that will get you there. And there are upsides and downsides to most answers and solutions that you bring to the table. And we have an opportunity to actually show people that like if you are looking for the perfect right answer, that might not be one. There is, however, like many ways that you can go after this. And which one are you willing to live with the downside of? And then go ahead and just recognize that. Don't get so caught up in perfection, get caught up in moving forward and then dealing with the downside that comes with that. And I love the fact that we get to model the fact that you can have lots of ways of getting there. I think
Yeah.
that's part of what's fun about our company and the way we think.
And I think I put this came out of one of your books, but one of you said it, maybe Tammy, you said it, is when you focus on personal growth of leaders, that drives the organizational success. And,
It does.
that really resonated with me because I think that's what I focus on as well. And I'm always surprised that people are kind of late to discover that sometimes. It's all about KPIs and it's all about productivity and it's all about the numbers, but if you focus on the personal growth of your leaders, those things usually fall in place and improve.
Mm-hmm.
That piece, again, one of the taglines on our website is you can't grow beyond your leaders.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people really miss the fact that if you are not growing yourself, your team isn't growing, your company's not growing. And we spend so much time sometimes as leaders as trying to fix others instead of really recognizing like work on you. And the outcome of that is going to be growth inside of everybody that you touch and every part of the organization that you have impact on. And something that for some reason, maybe it's because we just don't want to face ourselves, but we oftentimes want to fix things or fix others instead of really recognizing there's so much power in helping yourself become more.
With your anticipation of our discussion today, is there anything that I haven't covered or haven't talked about that you want to be sure and get into the program?
I don't. No, no, I don't. Tammy, do you?
What I will tell you, Steve, is I think inside of organizations, there is a lot of focus on numbers and metrics that oftentimes are hard to measure when it comes to people. And yet, I will tell you that there are people metrics that are more and more and more and more available to us that were not available 10 years ago because we didn't have ways of measuring that. And as we start recognizing that there are ways to measure people and measure people productivity and how they add value to the organization and what are their skill sets that could actually make a difference in this organization. As we start to look at the people side of this and the metric sides, I think you're going to see that balance out, right? It's just that human resource piece, we've never seen value in that. We've seen value in other kind of KPIs. But we're catching up in that world. And as we catch up, I think you're going to see as we start to measure our people and measure our productivity, that's when organizations, when they get both of those things right, that's when they're going to really grow. Because you can't just have people, you also have to have results. You need both. And so, how do we measure those things and how do we balance our focus to make sure that we are taking care of both sides of that house, because that's where success comes from.
At this time in the interview, I always ask my guests the same common question, and that question is, what can you leave us with today? What pearl of wisdom can you leave us with today? Scott, you want to go first?
Yeah, it- to me, I always think of it as whether I'm an individual, uh, frontline leader, supervisor, mid-level man, like whatever, looking at yourself and saying, am I done? What can I do better? And then being willing to take a step towards that future. That to me, when I look at when all is said and done, is a key differentiator in business as a human, etc.
Tammy, what would be your pearl of wisdom you could leave us with today?
I'm going to build on that. So if you're looking and you're saying, if I 30 days ago, 60 days ago, 90 days ago, 6 months, whatever that is, am I better today than I was before? Okay. If your answer to that is not yes, you have work to do. Okay. Not your company, not your team, you. Okay. Then with that, don't be trying to hit a home run. It's iterative. What is that small thing that you can work on that's going to give you a return on an investment? Work on that small thing. So don't worry about becoming perfect and don't worry about home runs, grand slams. That's not what it's about. It's about small incremental steps that will get you there. So then, like, don't make it too big. Make it something that is doable and something that's sustainable. And as you do that, what you will find is in a very short amount of time, you will have become more of who and what you want to be. And your results, the people that you touch and the companies that you have an opportunity to interact with, they will become better because of it.
Well, you two have just exhibited a perfect example of a great team, which is expounding on the other's idea and going to the next level and so on. And that's, that's great. So well said by both of you. So
Thank
if
you, Steve.
anyone wants to get a hold of you and use your services or find out more about your company, how do they do that?
The quickest way is on our website, becomemoregp.com. Both Tammy and I are on LinkedIn, so you can connect with us there and reach out and direct message us. Those to me are the two fastest ways.
Okay, great. Well, this has been a real pleasure, you two. It sounds like you're doing wonderful things, and it really resonates with me. I think we're on the same wavelength as far as growing leaders and helping companies become better. So that's a great message. So thanks for your time today. I really learned a lot and enjoyed talking with both of you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, well, take care, and maybe we'll run into each other down the road one of these days. Thank you for listening to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. To listen to all my interviews, subscribe to Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and many other popular podcast platforms. Some of these interviews are on video, and you can search YouTube for Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson. You can also access the entire library of interviews on my website, orange.coaching.com, and that is orange, the word, .coaching.com, and go to the Media Center and click on Podcasts or Video Gallery. You can also enter the website from pilpodcast.com.